A young boy from Wisconsin was playing outside in the freshly fallen snow, and when his parents checked on him, he had vanished without a trace. But 8 years later, his father looks under the neighbor's dog kennel, and what he sees makes his blood run. Coldly small town of Cedar Vale, nestled in the northern reaches of Wisconsin, was known for its tight-knit community and brutal winters. With a population of barely 2,000 residents, it was a place where everyone knew each other's business, shared their sorrows, and celebrated their joys together. The town had always prided itself on its safety and low crime rates. Children played freely outdoors. Neighbors left their doors unlocked, and the community functioned like an extended family. That was until 8 years ago, when Liam Baxter vanished without a trace on a cold Saturday morning as snowflakes drifted lazily through the air. Noah Baxter sat at his dining table sorting through police documents. The papers had become a familiar presence in their home reports, witness statements, and potential leads that ultimately led nowhere. His eyes occasionally drifted to the window overlooking their front yard, where his thoughts inevitably returned to that fateful day his wife Emma moved about the house, the sound of her cleaning providing a rhythmic background to his thoughts. The simple act of housework seemed to give her a sense of normalcy, something to occupy her hands and mind. Despite the years that had passed, their home still felt suspended in time, waiting for their son to return. Still going through those? Emma asked as she passed by with a basket of laundry. Noah nodded, shuffling through another stack of papers. Detective Larson said they received a couple of new tips last month. Nothing substantial, but he didn't need to finish the sentence. They both lived on these fragments of hope, however small. Liam had been 5 years old, a bright, blonde-haired boy with a laugh that filled their home. That winter morning he had begged to play outside in the freshly fallen snow. Noah and Emma had let him, as they had done countless times before. Their property bordered a small wooded area that was familiar territory. Local children. Noah had promised to check on him in 20 minutes. When he went outside, Liam was gone. The search that followed was unlike anything Cedar Vale had ever seen. The entire town had mobilized search parties, combed the woods, divers checked the frozen lake half a mile away. Police interviewed every resident. Days turned into weeks into months, and eventually the active search was called off. But Noah and Emma never stopped looking. The doorbell's chime pulled Noah from his thoughts. He rose from the table, straightening his sweater as he made his way to the front door. When he opened it, he found Walter Pierce, their neighbor from across the street, standing on their porch. Walter was a tall man in his late 40s with prematurely graying hair and a perpetually serious expression. He had lived in Cedar Vale for over 20 years, but in the decade since losing his wife and son in a house robbery, he had become increasingly reclusive. Morning, Noah, Walter said, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. Sorry to bother you, but the snowstorm last night destroyed part of your fence again. It blew over onto my property. Noah immediately began to apologize. I'm really sorry about that, Walter. That old fence has been giving us trouble for years. I'll come by and take it off your property, but I'll need to get a welder first. Mine's broken and I haven't had the time to buy a new one. Walter waved dismissively. Didn't worry about it, I already patched it up. I just came by to let you know. Noah was surprised and felt a twinge of awkwardness. You didn't have to do that, thank you. No problem, Walter replied with a slight shrug. I had the tools and was working on something in the back of the house anyway. Yeah, I heard some noise earlier this morning. Guessed you must be building something back there. Walter didn't elaborate on what he had been constructing, simply saying, sorry if the fence doesn't look as good as new. It's an old fence anyway, Noah assured him. Thank you again. Walter nodded and turned to leave. As Noah closed the door, he found Emma coming in from the backyard, her cheeks flushed from the cold. Was that Walter? I heard, she asked, unwinding a scarf from around her neck. Noah nodded. Our fence blew down again. He fixed it himself. Emma hung her scarf on a hook by the door and smiled faintly. It's been a while since we've gotten together with Walter. We should invite him to dinner as a thank you for fixing the gate. Noah hesitated. I don't know, Emma. We still need to go through some of these reports from the police about the new leads for Liam. Rather focus on that during dinner, not when we have company. Emma's expression softened with a mixture of sadness and gentle reproach. Noah, we've become so isolated and lonely over these 8 years. When was the last time we invited someone over? Years ago. Noah didn't answer immediately, knowing she was Right, they had gradually withdrawn from social connections, their search for Liam consuming every aspect of their lives, Walter. To Emma continued look at how private he's become after his wife and son died in that house robbery 10 years ago, Ken. You imagine living all alone for years. He must be a lonely man. She paused, placing a hand on Noah's shoulder. It might be good to sit down and have dinner together. We've all gone through similar experiences of loss. Maybe we could form a new bond. Noah considered her words, his gaze drifting back to the stack of documents on the table. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps they both needed this small step toward normalcy. All right, he finally said he'll go invite him for dinner tonight. Emma's smile was worth the concession. It had been too long since he'd seen genuine happiness on her face. Noah zipped up his jacket and stepped outside into the crisp winter air. The snow crunched beneath his boots as he crossed the street toward Walter's house. It was a modest two-story home similar to most in their neighborhood, though somewhat less maintained. The paint was peeling in places and the snowfall had been left untended, piling up in recent years. When he reached Walter's front door, Noah knocked firmly and waited. After a minute with no response, he knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. He was about to turn and leave when he heard sounds coming from behind the house, a dull thudding noise like someone hammering. Noah rounded the corner of the house, his boots sinking into the deeper snow of the backyard. "Walter," he called out. "It's Noah from across the street." The sounds led him to a small wooden structure at the far end of the yard, an old dog kennel that had been there for as long as Noah could remember. Walter was crouched inside it, seemingly adjusting something. At the sound of Noah's voice, Walter froze momentarily before carefully backing out of the small structure. "Noah?" Walter said, sounding slightly breathless. "Sorry, I didn't hear you knocking." "No problem," Noah replied, noticing how quickly Walter had straightened up and positioned himself in front of the kennel. "I'm surprised you're still keeping that old doghouse. It's been years since you had a dog, hasn't it? Do you want help tearing it down?" Walter's response came with a slight stutter. It's a reminder of Max. He was a good dog. I like keeping it around." Noah nodded, understanding the sentiment. People clung to different reminders of those they'd lost. Walter gestured to a partially built larger structure nearby. "Actually, I've been thinking about getting a new dog. They've been working on that for a few weeks now and wanted to complete it this morning." Noah's eyebrows lifted in surprise. "Seriously, you still working in this?" "Whether that's impressive, Walter. I used to breed dogs myself when I was younger, more of a hobby than a job, really." "What kind of breed are you thinking about?" "I haven't thought much about it," Walter replied, seeming more relaxed now that the conversation had shifted. "Maybe a puppy or a mid-sized dog." "Well, Emma and I actually wanted to invite you to dinner tonight," Noah said, "but if you don't mind, I could help you finish that new kennel this morning and we could go find a dog together afterward. I know a local breeder in the area." Walter seemed to consider this for a moment before nodding. "I'd appreciate that. I should be able to finish this in a few hours and dinner sounds nice, thank you." As they talked, Noah noticed Walter occasionally glancing back at the old doghouse. There was something odd about his neighbor's behavior, but Noah couldn't quite place what it was. Walter had always been a private person, especially after his tragedy, so perhaps it was just his discomfort with the unexpected social interaction. "Great, I'll leave you to it then," Noah said, taking a step back. "Just come over when you're ready to head out to the breeder, and we'll see you for dinner around 6. Walter nodded, already turning back toward the doghouse. "I'll see you then." As Noah walked back across the street, he couldn't shake a strange feeling. There was nothing overtly suspicious about their interaction. Walter had been perfectly cordial, if a bit awkward, yet something felt off. Perhaps it was just the unusual sight of his reclusive neighbor suddenly making plans for a new pet after years of solitude, or perhaps it was just the oddity of someone doing all that woodworking out in the snow. Reaching his own front door, Noah brushed the thoughts aside. People processed grief differently, and if Walter was finally taking steps to move forward with his life, that could only be a good thing. Noah entered his house, stamping the snow from his boots in the entryway. Emma was in the living room, straightening up the scattered throw pillows and magazines that had accumulated over the week. "He said yes to dinner," Noah announced, hanging his jacket on the hook by the door. Emma's face brightened. "That's wonderful. What time should I expect him?" "Around 6. I think you know what's interesting. He's building a new doghouse and planning to get a dog. I offered to take him to a breeder this afternoon. Emma paused in her tiding and looked up with genuine surprise. A dog after all these years. Smiled thoughtfully. See, I told you he must be feeling lonely. Getting a pet is a good first step toward healing. Noah returned to the dining table where he'd left the police documents. I suppose so. It's just unexpected he's kept that old doghouse all these years as a memorial of sorts. Emma resumed her cleaning, moving into the kitchen. Now people find different ways to move on. Speaking of which, we need groceries for dinner tonight. We're running low on everything and I want to make something special. Noah sighed quietly, looking down at the stack of papers before him he'd been hoping to spend the morning reviewing the new leads, compiling his thoughts before the week ahead consumed his time again. Can you grab what we needed really like to get through these documents today, if you don't mind? Can you help me with the grocery run instead? Emma asked. I want to clean the house properly for tonight, and I don't drive well in this weather. It's too cold to walk or wait for the bus. Noah looked at his wife's hopeful expression and felt a familiar pang of guilt. She asked for so little these days, and she'd been the one to suggest reconnecting with their neighbor, a small but significant step toward normalcy. All right, he conceded. I still have some time before Walter's ready to go to the breeder anyway. I'll do the grocery run, drop everything back here, and then head out with him if he's ready. Emma's grateful smile was worth the sacrifice of his morning plans. She quickly wrote out a shopping list, adding items as she checked the pantry and refrigerator. Noah headed outside again, shoveling a path from their front door to the driveway before starting the car. He let the engine idle for a while to warm up his breath, curling into small clouds in the crisp, cold air. As he was about to pull out of the driveway, he noticed Walter crossing the street toward him. Noah, Walter called, approaching the car window. Noah rolled down the window. Hey, all set with the doghouse already? Walter shook his head. Actually, I just remembered I already have plans to meet with some friends this morning. I'll have to cancel our trip to the breeder, but I'll still come for dinner tonight. No problem at all. Noah replied, surprised that the reclusive Walter had social plans. I'm just heading out for groceries. We'll see you at 6. Walter nodded and turned back toward his own house. Noah watched him go, that strange feeling returning in. All the years they'd been neighbors, he'd never known Walter to mention friends or social gatherings, but then again, they hadn't exactly been close in recent years, both families retreating into their private sorrows. Noah drove to the supermarket, his mind toggling between thoughts of Liam and mental notes of what to buy. The grocery store was relatively empty for a Saturday, most people likely deterred by the weather forecast predicting more snow later that day. He methodically worked through Emma's list, adding a few items he knew she liked but had forgotten to write down. As he loaded the groceries into the car, heavy gray clouds were gathering overhead, promising the predicted snowfall would arrive sooner rather than later. As Noah pulled out of the supermarket parking lot, a familiar car passed by on the main road. He did a double take, recognizing Walter's blue sedan. The car's windows were clear enough that Noah could easily see Walter was alone, driving in the opposite direction from where their neighborhood was located. Noah's route home followed the same road for a while, and he found himself unintentionally trailing Walter at a distance. A few minutes later, Walter's car pulled into the parking lot of Pinewood Kennel's, a local dog breeder that Noah had mentioned earlier. Noah drove past slowly, confusion settling in. Walter had canceled their trip together, claiming he had plans with friends. Yet here he was at the very breeder alone. For a moment, Noah considered pulling in as well, but what would he say? He had no right to question Walter's white lie. Perhaps the man simply preferred to choose a dog on his own without the pressure of someone else's opinions, or maybe he was meeting his friends there still. As Noah continued home, the inconsistency bothered him. It seemed a strange thing to lie about, especially when Noah had offered his help and expertise, but Walter had always been odd and private, more so since his tragedy. By the time Noah arrived home, light snow had begun to fall again. He unloaded the groceries quickly and found Emma in the kitchen already preparing for dinner. You're back sooner than I expected, she said, taking a bag from his hands. Noah nodded. There wasn't much traffic, and actually I saw Walter at the kennel on my way back. The kennel I thought he canceled with you. He did, Noah replied, setting down the remaining bags on the counter. Said he Had plans with friends, but I just saw him pulling into Pinewood's kennels alone. Emma paused in unpacking the groceries. Well, that is strange, but it's not really our business, is it? Maybe he just wanted to look on his own first. Maybe. Noah agreed, though something about it still felt off to him. As they stored the groceries, Noah glanced out the kitchen window and noticed Walter's car pulling into his driveway across the street. Walter got out and opened his trunk, revealing a metal dog kennel with what appeared to be a German Shepherd inside. From this distance, and with Walter's back to him, Noah couldn't see the dog clearly, but he could make out the distinctive coloring. "He's back already," Noah remarked. "With a German Shepherd, it looks like." Emma joined him at the window. "That was quick. He must have really connected with the dog love." "At first sight does happen, I suppose," Noah said, echoing Emma's earlier sentiment, "but it's still—" "ODD, I used to be a breeder. I know these transactions usually take some time with paperwork and everything." He was in and out incredibly fast. They watched as Walter struggled to maneuver the kennel across his snowy yard, the dog making the task more difficult with its movements. "He's having trouble with it," Noah observed. "I should go help him." Before Emma could respond, Noah was already heading for the door. He crossed the street, quickly calling out to Walter as he approached, "Need a hand with that?" Walter's head snapped up, his expression momentarily startled. No, I'm fine," he said quickly, his tone sharper than the situation warranted. "I'll see you this evening," he added, clearly dismissing Noah, taken aback by the abrupt response. Noah hesitated. "All right, if you're sure." Walter just nodded, already turning his attention back to the kennel and struggling to push it through the snowy yard. Noah returned to his house, a growing uneasiness settling in his stomach. Something about Walter's behavior seemed off, but what reason did he have to be suspicious of his neighbor? The man had been nothing but quiet, if distant, all these years. As he entered his house again, Emma gave him a questioning look. "He didn't want help," Noah explained with a shrug. "Said he's fine on his own." Emma nodded, returning to her dinner preparations. "Some people just don't like accepting help. It makes them feel vulnerable." "I suppose," Noah agreed, though he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Walter's strange behavior than simple pride. The hours passed slowly as the snow continued to fall outside, blanketing Cedar Vale in a fresh coat of white. Noah had returned to his stack of police documents, finally able to concentrate on reviewing them. There weren't many new developments, just the same frustrating lack of concrete leads that had characterized the search for Liam from the beginning. One report mentioned a possible sighting in a town 200 miles south, but the description was vague, and the follow-up investigation had yielded nothing. Another referenced a child matching Liam's description who had been enrolled in a school in Wyoming under a different name, but when authorities had checked, it turned out to be a case of mistaken identity. Noah rubbed his temples, fighting off the headache that always seemed to accompany these review sessions. 8 years of false hopes and dead ends had taken their toll, but he couldn't give up. Somewhere out there, Liam might still be waiting for them to find him. As evening approached, Emma's cooking filled the house with warm, inviting aromas. She had prepared a pot roast with vegetables, fresh dinner rolls, and an apple pie for dessert. It was more elaborate than their usual meals, a sign of how important this small social occasion was to her. "Do you think he'll actually show up?" Noah asked as he helped set the table. Emma arranged napkins beside each plate. "Why wouldn't he?" "I don't know. He's been acting strangely today. All these last-minute changes of plans, the way he reacted when I offered to help with the dog." Noah trailed off, unsure how to articulate his vague misgivings. "He's probably just nervous about socializing after being alone for so long," Emma reasoned. "Let's give him the benefit of the doubt." At precisely 6 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Walter stood on their porch holding a bottle of wine, his coat dusted with snow. "I hope Red is all right," he said, handing the bottle to Noah. "Perfect, thank you," Noah replied, stepping aside to let him in. "Come on and out of the cold." Emma greeted Walter warmly, taking his coat and thanking him for coming. The initial awkwardness of the reunion gradually eased as Emma served drinks and they settled at the dining table. The conversation remained light at first. Local news, the weather, harmless topics that required little emotional investment. As they began to eat, Noah decided to broach the subject of Walter's new pet. "So, I see you got a German Shepherd today. How's it settling in?" Walter's fork paused midway to his mouth, and Noah noticed a subtle tension in his posture, its fine still adjusting to the new environment. "That was a quick trip to the breeder," Noah said casually. "I saw you heading that way on my drive back from the supermarket right after you mentioned meeting up with some friends, Walter." S. eyes flickered nervously. "I'm sorry about that. My schedule became unpredictable. My friend canceled last minute, and I was so excited about getting a dog that I just went ahead to the kennel." Noah nodded, sipping his wine. "I was surprised they processed everything so quickly when I was breeding the paperwork. Alone usually took a while." Walter shifted in his chair. "Actually, I had ordered it a few days ago. Was just there to pick it up." The explanation sounded reasonable enough, but Noah couldn't shake what he remembered from that morning. Walter had said he wasn't even sure yet whether he wanted a puppy or a mid-sized breed, and something about Walter's demeanor now, the way he avoided direct eye contact. The faint tremor in his hand as he reached for his glass hinted at a discomfort that went deeper than simple social awkwardness. Emma, sensing the growing tension, gently changed the subject. "Walter, Noah mentioned you lost your wife and son 10 years ago. I'm so sorry. We understand how hard it is to lose family." Walter's expression softened slightly. "Yes, it's been difficult living alone all these years. We know something about that kind of pain," Emma said quietly. After Liam disappeared, she didn't get to finish her thought. Walter suddenly became visibly agitated, his gaze fixed on the window where the snow was now falling heavily. "I'm very sorry," he interrupted, "but I think I should check on my dog. It's snowing harder now, and the dogs knew it might be stressed with the adjustment." He stood up abruptly. "I'm afraid I left it outside in the kennel, and I forgot to bring it inside before coming here." Noah glanced out the window at the intensifying snowfall. "Yes, you're right. The wind's picking up. To do you need help bringing it in?" "Oh no," Walter said quickly, almost panic-stricken at the suggestion. "The dog's a German shepherd and might be alarmed by strangers. Even I'm still getting familiar with it. I'll handle it and come back after I'm done." Emma rose from her chair. "Of course, just make sure your dog is safe. We live right across the street and worry about rushing back if it needs your attention." Walter nodded gratefully and headed for the door, leaving his coat hanging on the rack. In his haste after he left, Noah and Emma returned to the table, the sudden departure leaving an awkward lull in the evening. "That was strange," Noah remarked. Emma shrugged, refilling their wine glasses. "He's concerned for his pet. It's understandable, I suppose," Noah agreed reluctantly as they continued their meal. Emma sighed softly. "Noah, imagine if I was gone too, and you had to go to work and take care of the house alone. Walter has been managing all that by himself for a decade. He must be a responsible man to care so much about his new dog. He deserves some happiness." Time passed, and Walter didn't return the pie Emma had baked sat untouched on the counter, and the dining room grew quiet, except for the occasional clink of silverware. "It's okay if he doesn't make it back," Emma said. "Eventually, the dog's new, so maybe he's having trouble settling it in." She began to clear the table, but paused when she noticed Walter's coat still hanging by the door. "Oh, he forgot his coat. It's freezing outside." Noah stood up. "He'll bring it back to him." Emma nodded, continuing to clear the dishes as Noah grabbed both Walter's coat and his own before heading out into the snowy night. The snow crunched beneath Noah's boots as he crossed the street, the cold air biting at his exposed face. Snowflakes swirled around him, illuminated by the streetlights like tiny stars falling to earth. Walter's house was dark except for a faint light visible from what Noah assumed was the kitchen at the back. He approached the front door and knocked firmly, holding Walter's coat folded over his arm. After waiting for nearly a minute with no response, he knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. Noah frowned, glancing at his watch. It had been over half an hour since Walter had left their house. Surely it shouldn't take that long to bring a dog inside, even if it was being difficult. As he stood there, contemplating what to do next, a distinct barking sound came from the backyard. The dog was still outside in this weather. Concern overriding hesitation, Noah made his way around the side of the house, calling out as he went, "Walter, it's Noah, are you okay? I brought your coat." The backyard was partially illuminated by the light spilling from the kitchen window. Noah could make out the German shepherd, not inside the house, as Walter had indicated was his plan, but still outside. The dog was moving restlessly in and out of its small kennel, a chain attached to its collar limiting its movement. Noah looked around for Walter, but saw no sign of him. The Situation made no sense. Walter had left their dinner specifically to bring the dog. Inside yet? Here it was still chained outside in the worsening weather approaching cautiously. Noah noticed that the larger doghouse Walter had been constructing was still unfinished despite his claim that morning that he would complete it. Another inconsistency in an increasingly puzzling day. Noah called again, louder this time. No response. He peered through the kitchen window but could see no movement inside. Walter's car was still in the driveway, and in this weather, at this hour, it seemed unlikely he would have gone anywhere on foot. Especially without his coat. Noah pulled out his phone and dialed Walter's number. The call went straight to voicemail. After several rings, a growing sense of unease settled in his stomach. As he put his phone away, the German Shepherd suddenly began barking more intensely. At first, Noah thought the dog was reacting to his presence, but as he observed more carefully, he realized the animal was directing its attention toward the small doghouse, alternating between barking and whining, keeping a safe distance. Noah moved to get a better angle on the doghouse. From his new position, he could see something he hadn't noticed before: a wooden panel in the floor of the structure that looked like it could be moved with what appeared to be an unlocked padlock sitting on top of it. There was also a metallic glint that might be a handle of some sort embedded in the panel drawing. On his experience with animals from his breeding days, Noah approached the German Shepherd, carefully speaking in low, soothing tones. The dog, seemingly more distressed than aggressive, allowed Noah to come close enough to unclip its chain from the collar and reattach it to a pole several feet away from the doghouse. With the dog secured at a safe distance, Noah knelt down and peered inside the small structure. What he had initially taken for a simple doghouse floor was actually a sophisticated trapdoor. The metal handle and latch were reminiscent of old war bunkers he'd seen in historical documentaries. A cold feeling that had nothing to do with the winter air washed over him. Why would Walter have a bunker hidden beneath a doghouse, and why had he been so secretive and evasive all day? Noah stood up and stepped back, his mind racing. He needed to talk to Emma. Fumbling with his phone, he dialed home. Emma, he said when she answered, his voice tight with tension. I found something strange in Walter's backyard. There's some kind of bunker or cellar under the doghouse. A bunker? Emma's surprise was evident. What do you mean? There's a trap door in the floor of the doghouse with a handle and latch like the kind you'd see in old war bunkers. The dog is still outside, chained up, and I can't find Walter anywhere. He's not answering his phone and his car is still here. There was a pause before Emma responded, that sounds concerning. Do you think he might be down there? Maybe he fell or got trapped somehow. I don't know. Noah admitted the padlock on the door is unlocked, which means someone could be down there, but why would he build a doghouse over a bunker entrance? It doesn't make sense. It could be dangerous, Emma warned. Maybe we should call the police just to be safe. Your phone battery was low earlier. It'll make the call. Noah nodded, though she couldn't see him all right, but tell them it's just a welfare check. I am worried Walter might be in trouble down there. I can't reach him and his house is locked, but his car is here. Promise me you won't go down there. Emma insisted. Come home and we'll wait for the police together, I promise. Noah agreed. He'll be right back. He ended the call and cast one last look at the trapdoor. The rational part of him knew he should follow Emma's advice and wait for the authorities, but another part of him, the part that had been searching for answers for 8 long years, was drawn to the mystery beneath the doghouse before he could make a decision. A noise came from the bunker, a metallic sound like someone climbing a ladder or stairs. Noah froze, his gaze fixed on the trapdoor, which remained closed. The sounds grew louder and clearer, unmistakably footsteps on metal rungs. Then, with a scraping noise, the wooden panel moved and the padlock fell to the side as the lid opened. Walter emerged from the opening, crawling awkwardly out of the narrow space. When he straightened and saw Noah standing there, his face registered pure shock, quickly followed by something darker, fear, anger. It was hard to tell in the dim light. Noah, Walter said, his voice carefully controlled but with an undercurrent of tension. What are you doing here? Noah held up the coat. You left this at our house. When you didn't come back, I thought I'd bring it over. He paused, then added, I was worried when you didn't answer the door, and then I heard the dog barking. It's still outside in the cold. Walter took the coat from Noah's outstretched hand with slow, deliberate movements. Thanks, yeah, about the dog, it's still not really. Warming up to me, I'm not so sure about bringing it inside anymore. I hope you understand. Noah couldn't help himself. He looked pointedly at the open trap door. What's down there? Walter's posture stiffened, his expression guarded nothing. That concerns you. I was looking for you. Noah pressed. I started to get worried when you didn't answer your phone or come to the door. Your car is here, but you weren't. Walter didn't respond directly to this. Instead, he glanced at the German Shepherd. You moved my dog. It was restless and kept barking at the bunker door. Noah explained. I moved it to calm it down. Walter's jaw tightened visibly. Noah decided to be direct. Why? Have you been lying to me all day? Walter, you said you'd bring your dog inside. But it's still out here. You said you were going to finish that larger doghouse this morning, but it's barely started. You claimed to be meeting friends when you went to the breeder alone. Noah paused, studying Walter's increasingly agitated expression. What's really going on? For a moment there was silence, broken only by the sound of the wind and the occasional whine from the German Shepherd. Then, without warning, Walter lunged forward. Noah barely had time to react before Walter slammed into him, grabbing his jacket and pushing him backward with unexpected strength. They grappled in the snow. Walter's face contorted with a mixture of rage and fear. You should have minded your own business. Walter snarled, landing a solid punch to Noah's midsection. Blow knocked the wind out of Noah, but years of physical labor had kept him strong. Despite his grief, he managed to block Walter's next swing and push the man off him. What are you hiding, Walter? Noah demanded, circling warily, now keeping his distance. Walter didn't answer. Instead, he charged again, this time driving his knee into Noah's stomach. As they collided, Noah doubled over, gasping, and Walter used the opportunity to shove him toward the open trapdoor. Get in there, Walter commanded, his voice eerily calm now, despite the violence of his action scrawl. In. Go down. Noah straightened, wincing from the pain in his abdomen. You can't make me go down there. A chilling smile spread across Walter's face as he reached behind his back and produced a handgun. Either you climb down yourself or I'll drop your dead body down, your choice. The sight of the weapon sent a jolt of fear through Noah, but he maintained his composure. The police are on their way. Here, Walter. Emma called them when I couldn't find you. If you fire that gun, every neighbor will hear it. Frustration flashed across Walter's face, but he kept the gun trained on Noah. Instead of shooting, he stepped forward and struck Noah across the face with the weapon, sending him stumbling backward. Blood trickled from a cut above Noah's eye as Walter continued to push him toward the doghouse, trying to force him to crawl into the narrow opening. Despite the pain and disorientation from the blow, Noah fought back, grabbing Walter's wrist and twisting it until the gun fell from his grasp. In a desperate move, Noah kicked the weapon, sending it sliding across the wooden floor of the doghouse and down into the darkness of the bunker below. Enraged Walter charged again, but this time Noah was ready. He sidestepped and used Walter's momentum against him, sending him crashing into the side of the doghouse. In the distance, the wail of police sirens cut through the night air. Walter's head snapped up at the sound, panic replacing rage in his expression. Moments later, two police cruisers pulled up in front of the house, their lights bathing the snowy yard in alternating red and blue. Officers emerged quickly, hands on their holsters, as they approached the scene of the struggle. Police hands where we can see them, one officer shouted. Both men raised their hands, though Walter did so reluctantly, his face a mask of frustration and defeat. The officers separated them, one checking Noah's bleeding face while the other restrained Walter. What's going on here? The first officer demanded before Noah could respond. Emma appeared, having followed the police cars from their house. Noah, are you okay? She called, hurrying toward him. I'm fine, he assured her, though the cut above his eye was still bleeding freely. Noah quickly explained to the officers what had happened, how Walter had acted strangely all day, how he discovered the bunker beneath the doghouse, and how Walter had attacked him when confronted. He pulled a gun on me, Noah added. I managed to disarm him, but the weapon fell down into the bunker. The officers looked at Walter, who remained silent, his expression unreadable. Is that true, sir? One officer asked him. Did you assault this man and threaten him with a firearm? Walter didn't respond. We're going to have to take you in. The officer continued, reciting Walter's rights as his partner secured handcuffs around his wrists. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of laws. The officer continued the Miranda warning. Another police car arrived, followed by an ambulance. Paramedics rushed to check Noah's injuries while additional officers secured the scene. One of the officers approached the open trapdoor, shining a flashlight down into the darkness below. There appears to be some kind of underground room here, he reported, peering down. I can see metal stairs leading down. Before anyone could respond, a noise emanated from within the bunker, the unmistakable sound of someone climbing the metal stairs. Everyone froze, officers immediately drawing their weapons and training them on the opening. The paramedic pulled Noah back and Emma gasped, clutching her husband's arm. The climbing sounds grew louder, more distinct with each passing second. Then slowly a figure began to emerge from the darkness. It was a boy approximately 13 years old with a mop of blonde hair that hadn't been cut in some time. He was thin, pale, and obviously frightened, his wide eyes blinking in the sudden brightness of the officers' flashlights. In his trembling hands he held Walter's gun. The officers tensed, calling out for the boy to drop the weapon, but he seemed confused and terrified, pointing the gun wildly at the crowd of strangers surrounding him. "Dad?" The boy called out, his voice cracking with fear as his gaze found Walter. "I won't let the enemy catch you. I'll protect you, Dad, in our home." His hands shook violently as he gripped the weapon. "I want to be a soldier like you." The officers exchanged bewildered glances, maintaining their positions but clearly uncertain how to proceed with a clearly frightened child holding a deadly weapon. "Son, put the gun down," one officer said gently. "It's not safe for someone your age to handle that." The boy's finger twitched near the trigger. "I know how to use this," he insisted, his voice trembling. "Dad taught me the country's at war. You're the enemy you want to take Dad and our home." Noah stared at the boy, a strange numbness spreading through his body that had nothing to do with his injuries. There was something hauntingly familiar about the child's features, the shape of his face, the color of his hair, the set of his jaw. "Liam," the name escaped Noah's lips in a breathless whisper. The boy's eyes flickered toward him, confusion evident in his expression. Noah stepped forward slowly, ignoring the paramedic's attempt to hold him back. "Liam, what do you mean we're not in a war and Walter is not your father?" He swallowed hard, hardly daring to hope. "Your mother and I are your parents." The boy's confusion deepened, his hands trembling more violently now. "You relying," he said, though there was uncertainty in his voice. "You just want to kill us. You hate us." His voice broke. "My mom died in a war," Dad said. "She was shot by the military." Emma stepped forward, now tears streaming down her face. With shaking hands, she pulled out her phone and showed the boy the screen. Her wallpaper unchanged for 8 years, showing a 5-year-old Liam smiling widely at the camera. "You were kidnapped," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "We've been searching for you all these years. We missed you so much, Liam." The boy stared at the phone, his resolve visibly wavering. He looked at Walter, silently pleading for guidance or explanation, but Walter refused to meet his gaze, staring resolutely at the ground. Taking advantage of the boy's distraction, one of the officers gently approached and carefully took the gun from his unresisting hands, quickly securing and disarming it. Liam didn't resist. He continued to stare at the photo on Emma's phone, confusion and the first glimmers of recognition washing over his face. "We're really not in a war?" he asked, his voice small and uncertain. "No, sweetheart," Emma assured him, fighting to keep her voice steady. "There's no war, Walter. He pretended all these years to be your father when your real father and mother were searching everywhere for you." Emma stepped closer, cautiously reaching out to touch Liam's hand. The boy flinched initially but didn't pull away, allowing the contact. It was as though some deep-buried memory was stirring within him, responding to his mother's touch. The paramedics moved in, wrapping Liam in a shock blanket and guiding him toward the ambulance. Emma followed closely, unwilling to let her son out of her sight again. Noah watched them go, his heart pounding with a mixture of shock, joy, and disbelief. One of the officers approached him. "Sir, we need to ask you and your wife some questions, but first let's get your injuries treated." Noah nodded numbly, his gaze fixed on the ambulance where his long-lost son was being examined. After 8 years of searching, of hoping against hope, Liam had been just across the street the entire time. The following hours passed in a blur for Noah. Paramedics cleaned and bandaged the cut above his eye and examined his bruised ribs, concluding that nothing was broken physically. He would recover quickly emotionally. He was still processing the miraculous turn of events. In the back of the ambulance, Liam sat, wrapped in blankets, answering basic questions from both medical personnel and police officers. The boy's confusion was evident. His entire worldview had been shattered in a matter of minutes. When Noah approached, Liam regarded him with a mixture of wariness and curiosity. Emma sat beside their son, not touching him, but close enough to offer comfort if he wanted it. "How are you feeling?" Noah asked gently, careful not to overwhelm him. Liam shrugged his eyes, darting between Noah and the officers. Nearby, "I don't know," he admitted. "Everything's different than what Walter told me." One of the officers, a kind-faced woman who had introduced herself as Detective Thompson, sat across from Liam with a notepad. "Liam, I know this is confusing, but can you tell us a little about what it was like living with Walter? Did he ever hurt you?" Liam shook his head. "He was just training me really hard, physical training, and recently how to use the gun." He paused, frowning. "He said I needed to learn to protect myself for when he wasn't there anymore. He said the war would last a long time, told me to hide deep in the bunker because things got worse out there." Do you know what year it is, Liam?" Detective Thompson asked gently. The boy hesitated. "Dad, Walter said it doesn't matter down there. Time works differently during wartime. It's 2007. The detective informed him. "You've been missing for 8 years. Do you remember anything about where you lived before the bunker?" Liam's brow furrowed in concentration. "I don't know. I've been in the bunker for as long as I can remember. Walter said it was too dangerous outside because of the war." He looked around at the peaceful, if snowy neighborhood. "But there is no war, is there?" Noah confirmed softly. "There's no war there. Never was." From the police car where Walter was being held, they could see him watching them, his expression unreadable. Another officer approached the ambulance. "We found something interesting in the bunker," he reported. "It's fully stocked with supplies, food, water, medical equipment. There's a generator, air filtration system, even educational materials, and we found several silent firearms, just as the boy mentioned." Detective Thompson nodded. "Sounds like he was prepared for a long stay down there." She turned back to Liam. "Did Walter ever let you leave the bunker?" Liam shook his head. "Never. He said it was too dangerous. He went out for supplies sometimes and said he was helping other people who were hiding from the war. He told me that when I was old enough I could help him." Noah's mind reeled at the implications. Walter had kept Liam imprisoned for 8 years, constructing an elaborate lie about a fictional war to keep him compliant and afraid to leave the dog. Noah said, suddenly remembering what had started this chain of events. "He bought the German Shepherd to guard the entrance to the bunker, didn't he? And he was building the larger doghouse to better conceal the trapdoor." Detective Thompson nodded. "That's our theory as well. Looks like he was having trouble keeping Liam confined as he got older and more curious. The dog was meant to be another layer of security." As they talked, a forensic team arrived and began processing both the bunker and Walter's house. Officers cordoned off the property with yellow crime scene tape, and curious neighbors had begun to gather. Despite the late hour and cold weather, eventually the paramedics decided that Liam should be taken to the hospital for a full medical examination. Years of living underground with limited sunlight and exercise would have had effects on his development that needed to be assessed. "Can we go with him?" Emma asked, her voice breaking slightly. "Please, we just found him." The paramedics agreed, and soon they were headed to Cedar Vale Memorial Hospital. Noah and Emma riding alongside their son, they maintained a respectful distance, understanding that for Liam they were still essentially strangers despite the biological connection. At the hospital, doctors conducted a thorough examination while Noah and Emma waited anxiously. Detective Thompson joined them, her expression grave. "Walter's not saying much, but from what we've pieced together and what Liam has told us, it seems he kidnapped your son the day he went missing. He happened to have that old war bunker on his property and built the dog kennel right on top of it, though we're not sure why. Possibly as a response to his own family tragedy." Noah nodded. "His wife and son were killed in a home invasion 10 years ago. He was never the same after that. That likely triggered whatever mental break led to this." The detective agreed. Emma wiped away tears. 8 years of lies. Our poor boy doesn't even know what the world is really like. "The psychological recovery will be challenging," Detective Thompson acknowledged, "but children are remarkably resilient. With proper support and therapy, he has every chance of adapting to normal life again." Dr. Singh, the pediatrician who had examined Liam, approached them with a clipboard in hand. Physically, he's malnourished and shows signs of vitamin D deficiency, which is expected given the circumstances. His muscle development is below average for his age, but there are no signs of physical abuse. He appears to have been fed regularly and kept in relatively sanitary conditions. Emma covered her mouth, fighting back a sob of relief. Noah put his arm around her, drawing her close. Can we see him? He SDR. Singh nodded. Yes, but please understand that he's still processing everything. He asked some questions about you, which is a positive sign, but don't expect immediate recognition or affection. This will take time. They found Liam sitting up in a hospital bed, looking small and lost among the white sheets. When they entered, he looked up, his expression cautious but no longer fearful. Hi, Emma said softly, stopping at a respectful distance from the bed. Hi, Liam replied, studying her face. You're really my mom? Emma nodded, unable to speak through her tears. And you're my real dad? Liam asked, turning to Noah. Yes. Noah confirmed, his voice thick with emotion. We've been looking for you ever since you disappeared. Hope Liam seemed to consider this. Walter, he told me my mom died and that everyone outside was an enemy. He frowned. Why would he lie like that? Noah exchanged a glance with Emma, unsure how much to explain. Walter lost his own family a long time ago. He said carefully, I think he was very sad and confused. He did a very wrong thing by taking you and lying to you. Am I going to live with you now? Liam asked, a hint of anxiety in his voice. Yes, if that's okay with you, Emma assured him. We still have your room just the way it was, but nothing has to happen too quickly. We can take it one day at a time. Liam nodded slowly. I don't remember you, he admitted, his voice small, but when I saw your picture, he trailed off, uncertain. It's okay, Noah assured him. We have plenty of time to get to know each other again in the days that followed. The story of Liam's discovery and Walter's deception spread throughout Cedar Vale. Local reporters clamored for interviews with the family that had been miraculously reunited after 8 years. Noah and Emma declined all interview requests, focusing instead on helping Liam adjust to his new reality. They brought family albums to the hospital, showing him pictures of his early childhood and telling him stories about his life before the kidnapping. Walter was charged with kidnapping, false imprisonment, assault, and multiple weapons violations. In the wake of his arrest, investigators discovered journals in the bunker detailing his deteriorating mental state over the years and his obsession with creating a second-chance family after losing his own. Watching his son now, Noah felt a profound mixture of grief for the years lost and gratitude for this second chance. The road ahead would not be easy. Liam would need intensive therapy to overcome years of isolation and deception, but they were together again after 8 years of searching, of hoping against hope. Their family was finally whole.